You know what you should do? You should follow me on Twitter at Brommer018. Link in the description. Do it now. What is going on, guys? Brommer18 here. Thank you so much for joining me on another edition of our FIFA 20 Custom Tactics series, the series where we recreate and adapt real-life systems in FIFA so that they will actually work in-game fairly effectively. I hope all of you are staying safe during these difficult times that we are all faced in, and hopefully you are all doing well. Today, though, we will move on to another tactic that has been highly requested. This time it is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's 4-2-3-1 tactics with Manchester United. Now, one thing I sort of want to preface this video with is that they sort of rotate between a couple of systems. The 4-2-3-1 is the predominant system that they use, and certainly they're most effective in general games. But also, they do switch to sort of a 5-3-2/3-5-2 in certain games, and if people want to see that as well, if people are interested in seeing that, I'll do a video on that system as well, so please do let me know in the comment section. Once or twice they've done a diamond system as well, but that's very, very rare. I don't think they're going to do that much, but this is a system that I think you guys are going to get the most enjoyment out of, and sort of play the most. But like I say, if you want to see the 3-5-2, then do let me know and I'll do a video on that as well. So it's very self-explanatory. We'll go to the 4-2-3-1 wide. There's no position changes that you need to make that we usually do, so you know all that is absolutely fine. You can keep all that as it is. I've randomly chosen this sort of lineup. You know, you got Rapture, you got Greenwood, etc. But of course, you guys will make your own sort of minds up on that. So first off, we'll go through the player instructions for each player. Then we'll switch on to the tactics, and as I go through, you know, I'll sort of explain why we do what we do, etc. So we'll start off with De Gea and work our way up the field. So with De Gea, you want him on comes for crosses, as we speak about in these videos. It's very handy when defending crosses and corners that are quite hard to defend on the game. When your goalkeeper comes out and attacks the ball, you know, it just relieves a bit of pressure off you, really, because they're quite overpowered, a bit overprotected on this game, as they are in real life, I suppose, really. So, you know, you'll find that to be an effective way to deal with them. But in terms of having him on sweeper keeper, I choose to have this on balance. The reason being is that you're not going to be playing a, you know, fairly high line in this. You know, they defend in a mid block, and as a result, it should be less likely to see you sort of suffering from balls over the top. So, you know, with that, you can keep it on balanced. If you do wish to just have that extra layer of protection, then fine, go with sweeper keeper. But generally with De Gea, you don't see him coming out all out of his 18-yard box all that often. So, you know, I'll just keep that on balanced. The two centre-backs are absolutely fine the way they are. No need to switch them about, really. One thing I would say that in this system you can actually get away with having you know, maybe one of your defenders slightly slower. In this case, Harry Maguire. You know, usually since I've been doing the ideal players sort of thing on the right hand side that you should see, you know, they've generally been faster defenders, and that's because a lot of people, when you're playing online, like to exploit the ball over the top and the pace, and so your defenders can't catch up. But like I say, in this case, slightly lower line, so you know you won't have to deal with that as much. So if one of them has pace and you've got that safety blanket, but the other one, say Maguire for example, he's slower but he's a lot better in the air, and with one-on-one defending than say Lindelof is, so he's more of that target, say on set pieces attacking wise, and also defensively when players are, you know, kicking goal kicks ups, etc. He'll be you know, sort of on guard or on call, however you may look at it, to you know, to answer that. So, you know, he'll be very, very impressive. So left centre back in this case, I'll suggest players who perhaps are slower but very comfortable on the ball, a lot better able to play a defence splitting pass. In particular, that's helpful for counter-attacking moves. Of course, you've got the counter-attacking. It's a big part of Manchester United's play. In this case, we have Martial, we have Rashford, and we have Greenwood. And Maguire has the ability to play those sort of defence splitting passes. Those bring the ball out and then play a 50-60 yard pass over the top, and he can play them through. And so, you know, you can have a slower defender, for example, someone like Bonucci, who is a bit slower but very, very good on the ball, who can do that. And so, yeah, one of them can be slower, but, you know, try and get someone who's more technically gifted and the other one a bit more pacier. onto the fullbacks. First off, we have Luke Shaw, join the attack and overlap. Now, with Wan-Bissaka, I've put this on the same, join the attack and overlap, because when you'll be playing this system will generally be when you're against, you know, sort of mediocre to worse teams. So, you know, with that, it will just give you a bit more going forward. However, you know, sometimes with Wan-Bissaka, you'll find he sort of stays back a little bit more, and as a result, then it allows other players, say someone like Greenwood in this case, to sort of, you know, be a bit more lenient coming back. But generally, you know, I'll have him on join the attack and overlap, and the same with Luke Shaw as well. There's not too much explain I need to do there. You know, we generally get the idea of what a modern fullback is. Next up, we have Fred and Matic, in this case, in centre defensive midfield. You're alright because they both have the same roles. That is man mark, stay back while attacking, and cover wing. So it's very important to note in this at this point that Manchester United under Ole, particularly in the last few months or so, have employed a sort of man press. Now, I spoke about this in a couple of videos, you know, sort of a couple of months back. Something that I call, and I've never heard the terms anywhere else, it's just something that I sort of thought up, is a man press and a lane press. So a lane press is something where when you're pressing the opposition, rather than marking man to man, the players off the ball, they're sort of trying to cut out the passing lanes. Whereas a man press is when you're pressing the opposition, all the other players are marked, so everyone's sticking sort of to their, you know, sort of man area only. And that's what Manchester United do. What you'll notice is when they press is that they actually, you know, all have tight marking on their opposition counterpart. And that's how you're trying to replicate that. Of course, you can't do it for every player, so you have to hope that they will do their job. But because you've got two central defensive midfielders, you are able to do that effectively. And when you're playing against teams who are playing a 4-3-3 with two, you know, sort of more advanced central midfielders, Fred and Matic in this case will be marking both of them. So it's a lot harder for the opposition to play out from the back. And that's what they're trying, you know, sort of to prevent here. In addition, it allows you to give someone like Fernandes, who we will come on to, of course, has been an absolute revelation since signing for Manchester United, has really helped turn their fortunes around. You know, you'll find that because you've got these two protecting him behind and they're able to recycle possession a lot more efficiently, it allows players like Fernandes and Rashford and Greenwood or Dan James, etc., to, you know, sort of be more creative minded, be more expressive, try more in, you know, sort of challenging things.
So that is why, along with the ability to recycle possession more efficiently, and also create a more effective man marking system, is why you would have, you know, two centre defensive midfielders rather say than one, and then two advanced central midfielders. So, you know, that's the back seven really organised. Next we can move on to the wingers. And so what we got here in Greenwood and Rashford is essentially, you know, two strikers turn wingers, and you got the same with Anthony Martial as well when he can come out onto the wing. So you want to try and replicate that as effectively as you can, and that's part of the reason why they become such a sort of a counter-attacking, you know, style sort of revolving team. So, you know, first off, you've got to come back on defence, and that's, you know, as you would expect, very hard work, and they're going to trap back and they're going to trap the fullback runs, etc. But then, of course, to try and get the best out of them, what you want for both of them is to cut inside and get in behind. Then you've really got trying to get them, you know, in behind the defensive line and in scoring positions as much as possible. So, you know, essentially whenever you've got a sort of inside forward type player, these are really what you're looking for. You want him to come a little bit more centrally, get as close to the sort of the post in the 18-yard box as possible. And then with them having so much pace as well, you want them getting behind, and that's how you're going to create a counter-attacking sort of threat from these. In addition, of course, you want them both to get into the box for crosses as well. Now, there is one change I would mention here, and that is, let's say, for example, you are playing Dan James, who is, of course, on the bench in this case. Now, one problem with Dan James, and he's usually out on the right. So one problem with Dan James is he's very one-footed. Unlike someone, say Greenwood, for example, who is, you know, taking penalties with either foot naturally. You know, Dan James, very, very right-footed, doesn't have the confidence to go onto his left. So in that case, what you would do is rather than having cut inside, you'd have him on stay wide. And, you know, in that case, he's more of a crossing threat. And then you've got the likes of, you know, say Fernandes and Rashford and Martial, and then Wan-Bissaka overlapping as well. And that's certainly something that Dan James is going to need to develop should he want to prolong his stay at Manchester United, because, you know, of course, with the likes of Greenwood and Rashford and Martial, etc., Fernandes as well, they can go on either foot confidently. You know, it doesn't matter to them. So, you know, like I say, Dan James will have to sort of work on that. But yeah, like I say, if you are playing him, and you know, rightfully so as well, he's very, very talented on this, very fast, and got a lot of potential as well in career mode. Get him on stay wide, but keep him on getting behind, then you've still got a counter-attacking threat. But in this case, he's going to be getting into those crossing situations a lot more, maybe driving to the byline and stuff, and it just gives you a sort of a different outlet to attack with. So that is the wingers sorted. Next we can move on to Bruno Fernandes. Of course, I imagine that's a lot of you are waiting to see what we've got for him. So first off, come back on defence, and he's very hard working, and thankfully they've replicated that in FIFA as well with the high work rate and the 94 stamina. But then with this, and what's the most important thing, is that you're getting him on the ball as much as possible. Now, since he's signed for United, we've all noticed how he's essentially instigating the majority of attacks. You know, he's the heartbeat, essentially. Whenever they're going forward and they're in the opposition attacking third, you know, he's the guy. So if you got him on free roam, he's essentially getting into as much positions as possible and giving you the opportunity to get him into the game as much as possible. So you can get the ball to him in a load of different areas and then go from there. And with support on crosses, have this on stay on the edge of the box. As you will have noticed if you watch United since he's joined, is that he finds himself in a lot of shooting situations just on the edge of the area, and that's because he does stay on the edge of the box. He prowls, waiting for either a cutback or a driven pass into him, or say perhaps they've whipped a ball in, defence clears it and it only goes to the edge of the area, in which case he's there to pick up the pieces. So essentially he's there as sort of your attacking pivot, and what I mean by that is possession can recycle through him in the attacking third, rather than, say, if you're going back to Fred and Matic and they're in sort of the middle third. So, you know, he's extremely important, and with these roles, we're really just trying to replicate that as best as we can. And I think, you know, we've really done that, and you'll see in the gameplay on the side as well. You know, we really do try and get as much out of him as we possibly can with these, you know, sort of instructions in place. And finally, we do have Anthony Martial. Now, of course, you might change this here. You might have Rashford up front. You might have Igalo, etc. You might just sign someone else. It doesn't really matter. Essentially, you are looking for someone with these sort of stats. So you want a pacey player who's also quite strong. He doesn't have to be Akinfenwa level, of course, but, you know, he can hold his own at the very least. And, you know, then you can sort of replicate what it is. So, you know, first off, getting behind, and that's most important. Again, we're trying to recreate that counter-attacking threat that Man United do possess. So with getting behind, you do have that. With support on runs, rather than stay central, have him on balanced, and then you've sort of got a bit more movement to sort of trouble the opposition with. So with, say in this case, we've got Rashford and we've got Greenwood cutting inside and coming into those central areas more and getting him behind. Maybe occasionally Martial will drift out wide, and then you've got that sort of matchup option. Does the defender stay or go? Do they track their men, or do they stick to their zonal area? So, you know, with balanced, you've got both best worlds really. Yeah, of course, you want him to stay forward as well. He's going to be that out ball when you're going forward. Hopefully, he can either hold the ball up, or you could get him straight into maybe a long pass. Maybe a Maguire gets a ball and sees him 40-50 yards down the field, and, you know, we can find him in behind. So, yeah, either way, just get your striker to stay forward, and that'll be the most important thing. So that's it for instructions. We can now move on to tactics, and as a sort of a little thing that I want to go into detail here. So with defensive style, we've got pressure on heavy touch. Now, what happens with pressure on heavy touch on this game is that what will happen is, let's say the opposition make a loose pass, a loose touch, etc. Maybe they're running back towards the own goal. Then, you know, your guys will press and they'll apply pressure on them. But then when it's not on, they'll form back into their, you know, sort of their block, and then, you know, stick to their shape. And that's very handy, because it replicates essentially what Manchester United do. However, what I would say is, and you might have noticed this if you've been glancing at the gameplay every so often, occasionally what I'll do in game is, let's say the opposition are trying to play it out from the back, and we're noticing something here. What I'll do is I'll press down on the D-pad and then left, and what that does is that applies a team press, and then all of a sudden your players will you know, develop a constant pressure sort of situation. And you know, you can do that occasionally, and that's what they do. They sort of apply an extreme pressure every so often in a game when they feel the opposition are there, you know, sort of win the ball back in, you know, United's attacking third or the opposition's defensive third. So, you know, do keep an eye on that. Try and be dynamic. Try and be sort of react to the situations. And then if you change that, you'll find it to be most effective. In terms of defensive width, we have this on 4. Then the reason being is that you're going to be able to sort of keep as narrow as possible without being so narrow that, you know, you can't get out to the wide men of the opposition when you can. But because you've got such pacey players, say Wan-Bissaka, Greenwood, Rashford, etc., they can get out wide, you know, fairly quickly. So with this on 4, it's not as bad as, you know, you won't need it on, say, 7, for example, to really get out there. You know, so 4's are really a nice sort of a level ground there. In terms of depth, I mentioned at the very start of the video, they do defend in a mid block, and so that's how we represent that here. We have this on 6th, and the reason we have it on 6 and not, say, 4, for example, which would still be mid block, is just because you want to be fairly high so that in moments when, as I just spoke about, you want to apply that press, you know, they're a little bit higher at the field, but they're not so high that the opposition is going to be able to sort of play over the top of them all the time. Like I say, they're trying to draw the opposition out a lot of time and then counter on them, you know, hit them on the break and use their pace, you know, to their advantage. So with this on 6, you get that nice balance. So on to the offensive areas of the ball now. Now we do have this on possession. And the reason why we have this on possession is because then you've got that emphasis. Players will come close to each other. However, we still don't want the counter-attack, you know, as we spoke about. We still want that emphasis on counter-attack. So the way we've replicated that is the fact that we've got these guys on getting behind. So Rashford, Greenwood, Martial, they're on getting behind. So even when it's on a possession system, they're going to still try and make those penetrating runs in behind. So you've still got that emphasis on counter-attacking system. And again, you'll see it in the gameplay on the right here. You know, we still have those moments where we can counter-attack because those guys are, you know, sort of running in behind and trying to penetrate the defensive line. In terms of width, move this up to 7. Again, we want to try and make it wide, but still offer some, you know, options in the middle for a possession-based game when we need to. So we can play through the middle when the opposition give us that opportunity. With width on 7, though, you're also going to have players like Rashford, like Greenwood, you know, fairly wide. And so when you can get them into space and they can get the ball out to them, that's when they can really sort of strut their stuff. So, you know, you get that, again, you get that nice balance. And that's the most important thing, trying to get the balance right in this system. With players in the box, we have this on 6 because then you'll have roughly 3 players getting into the box, and that should really replicate the fact that you've got, say, the striker, the left winger and the right winger in the box, and then, you know, everyone else is sort of prowling around on the edge ready to sort of pick up any loose balls, etc., or recycle possession. So, you know, again, 6 has that sort of covered. And finally, what we do on all of these videos is we have corners and free kicks moved up to 4. Then it means you have 2 players back on a corner, for example, which is more than enough to deal with the opposition counter-attack because they'll only ever leave 1 man forward. But then you have another option in the box, and, you know, corners are fairly tricky on this game to sort of execute. So, you know, with an extra man in the box, it just gives you a little bit more threat from those situations. So that is just about it then, guys, for this video. If you do have any questions about the system, please do not hesitate to get at me in the comment section. Let me know, and I'll do my best to answer any questions you may have. Don't forget to let me know if you want to see Ole's 352 as well. You know, certainly I think that would be an interesting one to do. I've, you know, got ideas for that and stuff. So, you know, if you do want to see that, do let me know in the comment section, and I can release a video about that as well. Hopefully soon we can get the Leipzig tactics out as well, along with this. These 2 have been the most requested ones, so, you know, they're certainly the ones I'm looking to do next. Don't forget to check out any of my other FIFA 20 tactics videos as well as my sort of wishlist series, which is sort of turning into a fixing FIFA series now. But, you know, please do go and check that out because, you know, I do put a lot of time into the making of those videos. Finally, do subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and ring the bell so that you get notifications every time I upload. Then you won't be able to miss one. On that note, we are going to finish it off there. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.